they were looking for it without these ones that have the asterisks.
Good evening, it is 7 p.m. I will call the meeting to order. If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and good evening. It is Wednesday, January 22nd, 2020, and this is the what I expect to be the last evening of the board's budget workshops before we adopt our proposed budget to move forward to Board of Finance and the Board of Aldermen. We start the meeting tonight with public comment, so I would just like to acknowledge that we did get a number of emails from parents regarding the class size item in the budget, and we did get a number of emails from staff members, media aides, library media specialists regarding that item in the budget. So I will read the public comment statement, and then anybody that wishes to address the board, there's a podium here. Speakers may offer objective comments about school operations and programs. The board encourages speakers not to express personal complaints or defamatory comments about the Milford Board of Education personnel or any person associated with Milford Public Schools. Security issues and matters relating to negotiations and grievances will not be permitted, consistent with the principles of the Federal Education Right to Privacy Act. Discussion of students is prohibited absent parental waiver. Public comment does not allow for two-way conversation between speakers and the board. We do welcome and appreciate your comments and opinions, and all will be taken into consideration. Public comment tonight is limited to the agenda item only, which is the budget. And please note, our meetings are televised and live streamed on YouTube, so we ask that you state your name and address for the record and try to limit your comments to 3 minutes each. Is there anybody who would like to address the board this evening?
Hello, good evening. My name is Kristen Leva. I live at 94 Monroe Street. I am the PTA president at Pumpkin Delight School.
I'm also a Pumpkin Delight parent. My name is Marie Olden. I live at 33 Woodside Terrace.
I've come to you, the Board of Education, 2 other times to express the need for purposeful play in our younger grades. I am overjoyed to hear that the concept of play and learning stations are being mentioned in the upcoming budget. Thank you. What I've expressed before is that play allows creativity, imagination, socialization, and this is what our kids need to grow in their education. I applaud and appreciate your efforts. I appreciate and I encourage you to continue to push this topic, and I also thank you for the understanding of how important it is. However, today, I'm here to plead for you to reconsider your proposed decision on the elimination of the role of media aides into our school. Our media aides develop a love for reading in our students. They work with each child individually to find books that they love, which results in engaged readers. Our aides also serve as substitutes for our media specialists. Yesterday, our media specialist was not in the building. There was no substitute available. Our media aide was able to step in so our students can still have library. We are ultimately all here for one reason, to give the best to our children. So since these meetings tend to run a little bit past our children's bedtime, I decided to bring the thoughts of our Pumpkin Delight students to you. I have here a board that was made from the children of Pumpkin Delight on how they feel about how impactful that our media aide is to our school. Our children absolutely adore her. She has patience and takes interest in every child. Here on this board, several students have described what she does and how she helps them in the media center. I want you to really look at the words that our children have to say to her, because she truly is a value at Pumpkin Delight. A few highlights from this board shows that how she helps them find books and connects them with different authors. She's described as super nice, kind, helps them to teach to respect each other, and always has a smile on her face. One note says, right here, "I'll never have another librarian like you." While we do need to teach technology to keep up with the fast-paced world that we live in, the basic needs of our children from year to year do not change. They need interaction, they need socialization, patience, understanding, willingness, encouragement. That comes from a person, a staff member, not necessarily a computer screen. Replacing our media aides for a technology position that is not even in the building full-time will destroy the relationships that our children rely on and depend on each day when they come in. When I think about it, when my 2 children leave Milford Public School System, and I have a 3-month-old, for higher education, They won't necessarily remember what they sat on, but they're gonna remember the staff members that encouraged them, that helped them, that built their education and their future. And this is why we need to fight for the staff members that make a difference in our children's lives. And I hope you will consider doing so before you approve the budget tonight. I'd also love if I could pass this around and you can just kind of see the artwork and some of the words that they
If you
use.
would leave it out, if we have a, take a break, people can go and look at it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to address the board this evening? Okay, seeing none, I will close public comment. Oh, I'm sorry.
We have somebody here.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did not see your hand up.
My name is Tracy Willett. I live at 180 Walnut Street here in Milford. And I'm also a media aide at Orchard Hills Elementary School. And we do much more than technology, as you just learned. But we also do a lot of technology. Many times I'm called during the day to go down to a classroom to assist a teacher, whether be it, internet connectivity problems, their smartboard problems, their Chromebooks, unable to log on, unable to get a student on to do their Lexia, which is very important in elementary schools. I'm assisting in the computer labs. I'm assisting the librarian. I'm assisting, I'm called down to the office sometimes to assist the secretary. I'm constantly, I'm more than just a clerk. That's not my title. My job consists of a whole bunch of different trades, and to take us out of an elementary school where these children, a lot of them can't even manipulate a mouse. And I have preschool also in my school, and they can't manipulate a mouse. They can't read. So for them to be able to go to the library shelf and pick out a book and check themselves out, they can't do that. These are 3, 4, 5-year-old on up. And they look to us for guidance in reading material. They look for us for guidance in helping them with their computers. And I think it's very unfair to our students and teachers who also look for us for support to take us out of these schools, divide us up, and not be available to them. Thank you. I hope you consider that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to address the board? Okay, seeing none, I will close public comment now. Dr. Buchaya, Mr. Riccicelli, I think we have some final questions that we're going to address this evening.
We do, thank you. So we'll start with number 46 officially. There's a handout before you. And while this was answered in the weekly update, we'd like it to be part of the public record. So how many years will a student keep the same Chromebooks? Students are on with Chromebooks are on a 4-year cycle. So there is a replenish and refresh every 4 years.
Any questions on that? Okay, thank you.
So question 47 is regarding the change to frontline for HR. Is the $35,000 net increase, were there any savings regarding the elimination of old systems? So we gave you much greater detail in this answer than maybe you were looking for. We wanted you to understand, as I presented at my 6-month entry plan, as well as earlier this year on sharing some plans in HR, we're hoping to establish some efficiencies for our staff within the system, and therefore, rather than utilizing multiple systems, trying to go to a common platform as much as possible, while it will not be 100%. So this is an example of that. So there is a net cost of $35,425, and there was a savings from eliminating 2 of the programs, and that's School Spring and Talent Ed. So we netted out the cost, and you'll see that as of the 2021 school year, if this budget passes, you will see the different frontline sections or parts of the platform that we will be engaging in. So frontline IEP is already in the system and will continue with this. Frontline 504 is already in the system, we'll continue with it. Frontline time and attendance is already in the system, we'll continue with it. The frontline recruiting and hiring will replace School Spring. Frontline employee evaluation will replace Talent Ed. And then the two new pieces of the platform, including taking on Frontline Central, which automates forms. We're starting with personnel forms and then potentially moving to other forms in the school district, automating many of our processes throughout the 15 sites. And then Frontline Professional Learning Management is a new part of the platform. I have talked to you before, I think last spring when we were talking about professional learning, that right now if we want to know what teachers in the system attended NGSS training, we literally have to go to a physical folder, pull out the folder, and flip through and manually count. So this professional learning management system will automate that. All requests for professional learning internally and externally, and we can easily run stats on what types of professional learning we're running throughout the system and offering our professionals. So that is the breakdown of our commitment to Frontline next year. And while there are savings in two of those, School Spring and Talent Ed, full package, there is a $35,000 or so increase.
Any questions on that? Mr. Pulowski.
Thank you. Just curious, is that a recurring cost or a one-time cost?
So it's a multi-year, yes, recurring.
There's a cost each year.
Every-
The number that we gave you in the question, the answer to the question.
The net cost.
Is the net cost for this year. Going forward, there are costs.
So would it be higher next year?
No, that's for next year. That's for the 2021 school year.
Year after?
The following year, it'll be the same prices. We've entered into a 3-year package, so the prices will be the same, but it'll be increased. No, it won't be increased because we've
No.
already
We
we're
locked in
already
the
paying
price.
for School Spring.
Yeah.
We're already paying for Talent Ed, and we won't be anymore. As well as the ones that we're keeping, we're already paying for. So essentially, the new ones we're paying for are Frontline Central and Professional Learning Management.
Okay.
So when we work with databases such as these, we usually lock in a multi-year price. So the prices stay the same for a couple of 3 years, and then we renegotiate the contract.
So just for this 1 year, it's this $35,000 net cost for
Increase.
this package.
And then we
In-
flatline
increase,
it.
And then after that, it stays at that level for the next couple of years.
Correct.
Thank you.
Other questions on the front line? Okay, move on to the next.
Sure, I'll take question 48, and this is with regard to two of the projects that are listed in 4305, the grounds projects. That is the replacement of the playscape at Live Oak School and the replacement or the removal of the oil tanks at Jonathan Law and Foreign. And the question is, are these included in the 5-year capital improvement plan? The answer is yes, we did include those projects in the capital improvement plan, which the board approved in May of 2019, and we sent that to the mayor. We included them in the 2021 budget proposal because at that time we didn't have any indication that they would be included in funding from the city. However, last Thursday we were informed by the mayor's office that he is including those projects in his recommendations to the Board of Finance and the Board of Aldermen in his bond authorization. So assuming that those pass at the Board of Finance and the Board of Aldermen, they will be funded through the CIP and do not need to be funded through your budget.
Questions? Mr. Riccitelli, are these critical items that need to be done in the coming
They are.
year? Those,
Yes.
the 3 pieces? Okay. No other questions on this? Okay.
And I'll take the last question, number 49, and if the board member who asked this question doesn't feel like this answers it, we did the very best interpreting the question last night, so forgive us if we didn't get it right, but we're happy to provide additional information if this doesn't clarify it. So could you please get the exact number of certified FTEs added to the proposed budget to accomplish district goals, and the exact number of non-certified FTEs added? Would also like this offset by the number of certified staff decreases. This should not include staff being moved from certified lines to non-certified, and the exact number of non-certified staff decreases. So we interpreted that question to mean just clean what are the additional FTEs and what are the decreases. Don't tell me what budget line items are shifting, just clean who's being added and who's being decreased. And this, I think, is the simplest answer to that question. So you'll see a total change to certified staff is an addition of 0.2. Total change in non-certified staff is minus 11, with a total FTE change of minus 10.8. I hope that answers that question.
Are there any questions on this, or anybody need clarification on the information? Mr. Fowler?
Just one question about the media aids. Could you just go through again, like, what was the rationale behind the move to, the 8 tech support people? And because I'm wondering, would it be possible if we could just if we could train the media aids in the upcoming new tech that we're putting in? If we're eliminating other stuff from the budget, would there be more room in the budget to keep the aids on? Because from
So you're all 15?
yeah, and eliminate the 8 tech support. That's my rationale right now. I'm wondering, what was the rationale behind the move of eliminating the media aid position in favor of the new one? I
So
just needed some clarification on that.
We've talked about that extensively.
Yeah, but I just need a reminder.
So we moved from a media aid position to an IT because we believe that the way that position is crafted currently does not meet our current technology and learning needs of students. That we needed different types of supports for the technology that we've rolled out in the school system. We also felt that the media aid position was very much library-based, and we needed something that was a little bit more school focused. And in looking at our resources and how they are spread throughout the system, we do not believe we need 15 media aids to serve 14 schools. And so whether this is a media aid title and we work on training current media aids, or we eliminate the media aid position altogether and go to an IT support position, my recommendation to this board is we don't need 15 positions. I would still recommend a reduction of 15 to 8.
Now, would they? I know typically that when a position is eliminated, people get the people that just got laid off typically get first dibs, or like first, not like they have the possibility of interviewing, and they get asked first, or first
Priority.
dibs. Yeah, priority. Thank you. That's the word. What's the standard coming up with this position right now?
So I think it's worth saying that, so I'll take an opportunity to answer this and more, okay?
Right.
I think it's worth saying that this board has charged me to innovate and make this the most progressive school district possible. That's actually your vision as a board, to be a progressive school district. So you, in an effort to be innovative and progressive, I understand that change has to happen, and I hope you do too. Because to innovate and to have progress means to change. And sometimes people don't like both of those things. And I understand the impact of change, particularly on people. That's one of the first impacts, are on people in a system or organization. And you have to understand that I don't take that lightly. Because I know that this decision impacts 15 people, many of whom are in this room. I understand that. But this is not about the people who fill that role. Those people are valuable to us. Those individuals are part of our school community. But this conversation, this decision, was about the position of the media aid and revisioning it to better align with our teaching and learning goals. So when we take a look at the people and the new position, we of course would give priority to those individuals currently who are media aides to remain as part of our school community because they're valuable to us. We'll prioritize those people who are qualified for the new job. Of course, we would. Because we want the best service for our kids, and we know that the people skills are there. The 15 people who are part of our community have what some of our commenters stated. They have this connection with kids. and we want to continue that. But revisioning the position allows us to look at the qualifications of the people who could potentially match that new position. So of course, we would give priority to those individuals.
Thank you.
Any other questions or need for clarification on this? Okay, so there are no other questions from the board at this point? Did administration have anything they felt they needed to clarify for us, anything further? Nope, okay. Does anybody need a break or a recess before we go into the action? Mr. Pulowski?
Madam Chair, could we have a recess before
Sure,
we
we
go
can
on the vote?
yes, we can.
Thank you.
I could use a so. So we're going to stand in recess for a short while. Seven what?
22?
The Learning Center is going to always be We are back in recess at 8 PM. I'm sorry for the delay. All right, just to explain the process for board members so that there's no confusion. Our starting point is Dr. Kutaya's budget as she presented it to us. And then we can entertain any amendments board members feel they'd like to make. And we go through the amendment process. Any amendment that is approved becomes part of the main motion as amended. Anything that doesn't get approved is put aside. And then at the end of the process, we do need to take a final vote on the final motion as amended, if any amendments pass. Does that everybody understand? And so there's a second and discussion on each motion that's made. And a vote. Yes? Point of order?
No.
Does everybody understand that? Any questions? Okay. Ms. Petrosky, you have a motion?
I do. I'd like to make a motion to approve the superintendent's proposed 2021 budget as presented in the amount of $98,472,780 and direct administration to transmit it to the mayor.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Second, Mr. DeYoung. Discussion. Ms. Petrosky?
I'd like to move for an amendment. Move to reduce account 7340 furnitures and fixtures by $173,024 for a new total of $391,560.
Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Ms. Twist? And discussion. Ms. Petrosky, you'd like to, being the maker of the motion, would you like to
I
speak
would.
to that amendment?
Yes, I think that the pilot for kindergarten flex furniture would be more appropriate at this point, rather than just rolling it out. And then this way, that gives us time to come back and see what we really like to extend that program.
Okay, thank you. Is there any further discussion on Mr. DeYoung?
I just wanted to reiterate that I am fully in support of the flexible seating and that direction that we're moving in. But I agree with Ms. Petrosky about the pilot program in kindergarten. I think it makes a lot of sense considering we haven't had this type of furniture in any of their kindergarten classes yet. I think it's exciting that it will be in kindergarten classes next year, and I hope the board will support it.
Any other comments on this amendment? Okay, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. I should ask, are there any abstentions? I should ask. I'm sorry. Okay, motion carries unanimously. Are there any other amendments?
Yes.
Ms. Petrosky?
Thank you, Ms. Glennon. I'd like to move to reduce the account in the 4305 grounds projects by $265,000 for a new total of $120,500.
Is there a second?
Second. Second.
Second,
Ms. Watson?
Ms. Wasson, I'm sorry. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Ms. Petrosky?
I just wanted to give my rationale for that.
Mhm.
Since the oil tank removals at Law and Foreign and the playscape for Live Oaks are in the CIP for bond authorization, my assumption is that that will go through and we won't need to have it in our budget. We can remove it.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this amendment? Okay, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? You're abstaining?
Yeah.
Okay, so that is 9 yes, 1 abstain. Any further amendments that anybody would like to offer? Mr. Fowler?
I'd like to make a motion to amend lines 7340, line 111, and 7310 by $41,880, $100,000 and 200. No,
Can we do them,
22,000.
it would probably be better to do them individually. So
Okay.
there's 3 separate lines you'd like to
Yeah.
discuss amending.
Okay.
So let's do one at a time, so that
Okay.
we can look at them individually, because each one has a different amount to it, correct?
Sure.
Here's a specific amount.
Well, they, I should say that they all pertain to the science labs.
Okay, so, okay, so can you restate your motion?
I'd like to reduce the amount, line item
7340 by how much?
by 41,880.
Okay,
In line 111, $520,000. And then line 7310 by 22,784.
okay, so 7340 is, just for a point of clarification, furniture and fixtures. 7310 is equipment, and 1111 is certified teachers, regular education, regular ed. Okay, is there a second for the motion?
I'd like the second for discussion purposes.
Mr. Pulowski seconded for discussion. Mr. Fowler, would you like to explain your rationale?
Yeah, sure. My reasoning behind this, to eliminate the science labs, is that I believe that right now they're not addressing the right here, right now, which is the health of our math and English test scores. And during the proposed budget, during the presentation, Dr. Kataya said that our test scores in those areas have flatlined, and I think she's right. Currently, we're ranked number 11th in English language in our DRG, and I think 13th in math when compared to the other 24 schools. And so, in other words, we're in the middle of the pack, and the reality is that our enrollment has decreased while our costs continue to go up. And I think it would serve the citizens of Milford. I think they would rather prefer us focusing our funding in those critical areas than in the science labs at this particular juncture. I suggest that we table the science labs until a later date, because even though the test scores don't show the whole story, they are a reflection on our school district, and I do want us to be number one. And I think we can discuss the science labs when our test scores more reflect, when they mirror our budget, which we're in the top 5 in our DRG. And so I think we should be in the top 5 for math and English before we can further discuss the paying for science labs at this point.
Thank you, thank you. Any further discussion on this motion? Mr. Dion?
So I fully support the science labs in the elementary schools. For one, I believe that science is an integral part to students' development. It informs math and also excites students about learning. I think that students have a tendency to get bored with literacy and math and get really energized by science and the phenomena that they're discussing with the next generation science standards. I think this is the next step that will progress our district forward. And as we've discussed many times, test scores aren't the only measure of what a school district, of the success of a school district. And so for me, personally, I wouldn't look at whether to fund a budget item or not based on just test scores. So while I appreciate the comment about math and literacy, or ELA numbers, I don't believe that that's being overlooked in this budget. I think it's part of the whole, and I think the science labs are a part of that whole as well.
Thank you, Mr. Dion. Ms. Wolf-Boyton?
So I have to agree with Mr. DeYoung, and one of the things that I really believe in and that I see in my profession as a college professor is that the need for our young people to be critical and independent thinkers is something that seems to be sorely lacking. And while there is no one who loves words and language more than I do. And when it comes to high English scores and math scores, I think that's absolutely essential for so many reasons. But it seems to me that there is going to be all kinds of tangential positive effects from having these science labs, this generation of young people who really are very hands-on with their learning are going to have that kind of experience. They're going to have practical problem-solving experiments, and we're going to be challenging them to be critical thinkers. And if we're doing that in the science lab and we're teaching them how to solve problems in there and to be more analytical and to be independent with their learning, which I think is really, really critical, that we teach our young people how to be independent learners, that is only going to spill over into the areas of math and English as well. So I do fully support the science labs because I think it's going to have an expansive effect.
Thank you. Any other discussion or comments from board members on this amendment? Ms. Twist?
So I find myself in an interesting position, quite honestly. A couple of things. I think we have to take a look at curriculum as a whole, and that you can't ever just target one area of curriculum. It's got to be an ongoing process. We've really, and I do understand, quite frankly, that the curriculum in science, we really have to move forward because of the next generation science standards push that. So we've got to do something about that. I do share some of the concerns that you have in terms of cost. And I tend to look at budgets probably in a pragmatic way because I built budgets. And I think about my own budget at home, as we all do, that you have lots of things that you want to do, and you have a limited amount of money, whatever that limited amount of money is, and how do we best meet the needs of the kids. Science is a fascinating thing. My husband was a science teacher for close to 40 years, so I get science. He was an incredibly good science teacher and loved it. But at the same time, I do have to say, I do share the concern that when you're looking at over $500,000 for staff, and then the furniture and fixtures, that is something that's concerning.
Thank you. Any other comments? Ms. Hennessy?
I know it seems like a big number amount, but I really feel that in order for our students to meet the next generation science standards, but also just when they are ready to go on in life where there's a big demand for STEM skills, I think we really do need to fully fund the science labs and fully staff them with certified science teachers. It truly is a little bit more specialized than teaching social studies or language arts in the elementary room. I think we really need to have science teachers at the elementary schools as well. And I think that will be the vehicle to raise scores, not just for science, but for math and English as well.
Thank you, Ms. Hennessy. Any other comments? Ms. Petrosky?
I just had one more thing to add to that, yes, I do think that science labs will absolutely help with the critical thinking, the analytical thinking, and in your math scores, raising other scores as well. It's just how to, but I also think, we have HQI in this budget, which will address the math, the ELA, all subjects, really. It's how we teach, how we engage our children, and how we have them think and learn. So I think, yeah, it's a big nut to crack. It's a lot of money, but I do think it's critical for us to stay, not even to get ahead of the game. At this point in time, I think it's critical for us to stay in the game. I think for our kids, if we don't do this, this is going to be a real problem for them, not in the far too distant future. So I think we're at that tipping point now where we have to make that investment. That's all.
Thank you. Ms. Wasson?
So I also fully support the science labs and the 8 teachers that come along with them in those science labs. I think to your point about the English and math scores, with the curriculum of science moving forward with NGSS, that comes with a lot of, you want to give students time to fully go through the lab and through the the piece of curriculum that they're going through, and to be able to come back to that during the day or the next day, and to be able for teachers to have to set all of that up in their classrooms. So just looking at it space-wise, and then break that down and have a space for them to keep the projects that they're working on. I think it's critical to have that designated space for it. And I also think it's really important to have a teacher for each of those labs, because if you don't, and it's just the classroom teacher's responsibility, I don't think they'll get the utilization that they really could. So, thank you.
Ms. Ratner?
To piggyback all that is said, the truth of the matter is, here we are wanting to build a better student, a better child, to have them be able to go out into the world and encompass the math, the language arts, the science, history, and everything. You give a mentor to a teacher and the teacher themselves, and they're working together. The gift that's coming out is that everybody's learning together to be in charge of their learning, to inquiry, to stand up for themselves and learn how to be a person that can do problem solving, math, critical thinking, creative thinking, decision making, and being able to analyze in ways that they wouldn't normally do because they're in charge. And it's not only the science teacher and the regular teacher, the mentoring ship that's happening, the child, they're a team, the three of them. They're working like in the real world, like all of us. And I mean, that's, you can't give a better gift than that. It gives me goosebumps. So I totally support this.
Any other comments? Mr. Fowler?
Yeah, just say that math and science, math and English do build the basis for, science and those critical skills that you apply in science. But I just think that at this point, it is a lot of money that we're putting on the taxpayer. And the science labs, I think, I don't see them as, I'm not completely sold yet. And I think that, with the HQI, I'd rather spend that money to help raise those math and English test scores. Because, that reflect, when people go online and say, what about the city of Milford and our Board of Education, that does come up. And, since we're in the middle of the pack and on those areas, and other I just think the taxpayers and the students would benefit if we focus more on math and English at this point than building independent science labs throughout the school district. Just me.
Thank you for your input, Mr. Fowler. It's very helpful. Any other comments? Okay, seeing none, we are going to vote on an amendment, the amendment that Mr. Fowler made. Does anybody need me to repeat the amendment, the motion? Okay, no further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye.
Aye.
Can we have a roll call?
Adam DeYoung,
A no on the amendment.
Andrew Fowler,
Yes. Yay.
Rita Hennessy,
A, no.
Warren Pulowski,
No? Is that the correct word?
yes.
No.
Una
Everybody's saying something
Petrowski,
different. I just want to.
No.
Betsy Ratner,
No,
Cynthia Twist,
No.
Nicole Wasson,
No.
Cindy Wolf Boynton,
No.
Susan Glennon,
No.
9-1.
So the motion fails. Are there any other amendments that would like to be offered tonight? No, seeing none? Okay, so just for a point of information, have you been keeping track, Mr. Riccitelli? So are we at 98,034,756?
Correct.
Can you repeat that?
98,034,756. Thank you. Okay, so the final step would be to go back and vote on the main motion as it was amended, so I'll just restate what the motion would be. The motion to approve the superintendent's proposed 2020-2021 budget as amended in the amount of $98,034,756 and direct administration to transmit it to the mayor. So is there a second on the amendment?
Second.
The amended final motion.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on the final motion? So this is the vote on the total budget. Mr. Pulowski?
Thank you. This is my third budget, I believe now, and it is probably, I have to say without a doubt, the hardest budget that I've worked on in these 3 years. And I think a lot of that has to go with the progressive nature of it. And you know, Dr. Pataya, you mentioned earlier that we brought you on to be progressive, to make us a progressive district. And I stand by that decision. I think it was the right call. I think it's the right direction that we need. And it's tough. It's a tough thing, not just fiscally, but you know, in terms of personnel matters as well. There are a lot of moving parts to this budget, and I think how we vote none of it is taken lightly. And I just want to say thank you to everybody who has provided input on this budget, from the parents to the staffs, everybody. We heard you, so don't think we did not.
Thank you. Ms. Boynton?
So, this is my first budget, and it's been very meaningful over the course of the workshops, to hear the public comments. Not only did we get people who came here and spoke very thoughtfully, such as you who were here tonight, but we got many, many thoughtful emails as well. And I think I speak on behalf of many of us when I say that we had some really hard decisions that we had to make. And which is the best decision ultimately to go into. And I think that one of the things that's important to say publicly is that Dr. Pataya, one of the things that I think has been very impressive about you and your leadership is that you have shown a real commitment to the expansion and transformation of the school system. And with the implementation of HQI and other things that you have been doing, it seems that you are equally committed to the expansion and the transformation of the individuals who work within the school system as well. So, at least for me, with my vote on the budget tonight, would be a request and a hope that, especially for those who were losing their positions within this budget, that conscious commitment to continuing the transformation of those who are part of our community in the school system here, that goes on, so that everybody is moving forward to the best of their abilities and for the greater good of all.
Thank you. Any other, Mr. Fowler?
I just want to thank everyone who's here and who's watching. Just thank you for the opportunity of placing me here. It's been an enriching experience so far, and maybe, yeah, I just want to thank everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other comments? Ms. Twist?
So, first time doing a budget on this side of the table, and I didn't think it would be harder, but it actually is. just letting you know. I think the budget process itself and the amount of information that we got from all of you has been invaluable, and I have to say that for those of you who don't understand, I mean, we asked more questions than I've seen in a very long time with a significant level of specificity, and that was very, very important, and I do thank you for that, because you guys were really responsive immediately, and that's all of the team leaders as well, being able to give us that information. Again, I've been in public education longer than a lot of you in the room probably have been alive. And I don't take this lightly. You know, I look at the contracts that need to be honored. I look at the district vision and the goals that you all work together on, and what really is going to make up a learner. For especially next generation learners who will be doing things that we can't even possibly conceive of. I look at staff members who absolutely need professional development. Nobody can do a job unless they've constantly got somebody that they can work with to get better at their craft. Teaching is a craft, and we really do have to keep that in mind. My concern simply is dollar amounts, and that's the hardest part. And I think that especially at the first budget on this side of the table, that's one of the most difficult facets of this. I'm still struggling with it, I will tell you. You know, I think the amount of money is astronomical. I keep in mind the fact that we are a city of many needs, with lots of different family situations, et cetera, and I keep that in mind, as well as trying to balance the needs of our kids, the place we want our kids to go, the place they should be able to go, and that's kind of where I'm at with all
Thank you.
of this.
Ms. Hennessy?
I agree with you. This has been the hardest budget that I've worked on, and it's only been my third budget from this side of the table. Part of that being the dollar amount, but it represents changes in pedagogy. It represents opportunities for science in the elementary school, and it does represent some other changes in personnel, which it breaks my heart for it to happen. But I think overall we're looking at something that's for the benefit of all the children in Milford, and that will be to the benefit of everyone else. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Ms. Ratner?
And speaking to the benefit of, first of all, it's heart-wrenching, and I've never had the situation where people were so involved, and that makes me very emotional. Meaning, when I say people involved, that they aren't be able to, from all those phone calls and all those emails and the pleading of what is important to them, but it's also what's important to the children and to Milford. And what I see is Milford now getting a boom. I see more families wanting to move in, because the inquiry, the discovery, and all that Milford is doing to be in the forefront is a place they're going to be. So they'll be researching and go, that's a school district I want to be. I want to move to Milford.
Thank you. Mr. DeYoung?
So, first of all, I do want to thank everybody that came to speak tonight and at our initial meetings and the 2 workshops. One of the things that I heard a lot of people say that this budget was hard to work on. For me, it was actually exciting to work on. We don't often hear from people who have an opinion about it. And we should. We should hear more often from people who have an opinion about it, because this affects people's livelihood, it affects people's children, and I'm really excited that this progressive budget encouraged people to come out and speak one way or the other. I think this was the most transparent budget process that I've been through in the last 3 years. Last year was your first budget, but it wasn't really your budget. And the budget before that, I felt, was sort of pulling things out of people to get them to tell us what they really wanted and what the direction really should be for our community. So I really appreciate your transparency and willingness to talk through whatever we wanted to talk through. Even if it wasn't specific to a line item, you gave us the answers we were asking for. I know that we have a fiscal responsibility as a board. I take that responsibility very seriously. But with that being said, this city is a city that is growing. It is, the grand list is growing, if you want to talk just dollars and cents. And we are experiencing an economic renaissance, as has been said many, many times. And to me, what that means is now we have to take that and move ourselves even further. Okay, so, and that goes to the school district. Our school district needs to be one that people want to be a part of. Right now it is, but we need to get further. And this budget does that. we have people in this community that fully support our school systems, and I think they will fully support this budget because it does that. It moves us in the direction that we need to go. In your initial presentation, talked about consistency. Consistency is great. We all like consistency, but consistency doesn't get us to the next level. Progression does, and I think this progressive budget is one that starts that process. I don't think it ends with this budget. I think it starts the process. And I also just want to say that I think we have the people in place, and not just Dr. Kutaya and Dr. Fedigan, but also the leadership team at Parsons, which is significantly different than it was 2 years ago. And the progressive ideas that they're bringing to the table, and the progressive ideas that they brought to this budget. And I also think that this board has been responsible with making cuts where we thought needed to be made, and where it didn't dramatically impact teaching and learning. We appreciate the flexible seating, but want to take it a little bit slower than we had started out with. So I fully support this budget. I hope everybody around this table will fully support it. And I really hope that the other boards in our town, the Board of Finance and the Board of Aldermen, will take a hard look at it and know that this Board of Education did their due diligence, and we looked at every angle and every possibility, and we came to this decision, not lightly, but with the thought of our kids in mind. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeYoung.
Well said.
Ms. Petrosky?
I just wanted to say one thing about this budget process in addition to what Mr. DeYoung just said, which is I totally appreciated getting all of the emails, all of the information, all of everyone who came to speak. It was educating for me to understand in a more detailed manner exactly what everybody was doing. And yes, this was a very challenging decision to make. And I'm putting my faith in this administration that they are moving in the direction that we've asked them to move. And change is hard and it's painful, but it's also exciting, and I'm hoping that everyone here finds that this becomes an opportunity in another way. It's not always something that looks like it's a good thing. Sometimes it becomes the transformative time of your life. Maybe. And that's what I just hope for everybody here. And I do appreciate all of the input that was given. It was very important to have that. So thank you.
Other comments? Okay, so I just want to, for myself, I'd like to thank Dr. Kutaya and her staff for engaging in a thoughtful process with us. It was, I would agree with my other board members that this was while it was not an easy budget to deliberate over, it was a budget that was strongly and thoroughly deliberated over. So I want to thank my board members too for putting in the time necessary to make an informed decision. We spent a lot of time weighing this and weighing that against our priorities and assumptions, our goals, and the commitments that we have made over the last 2 years for the board, those that were on the board last term, to go in a certain direction. And I think our community, based on the feedback we got at the time of our selection process, would agree that we need to go in this direction. I'm excited about the initiatives being proposed in this budget, some of which I know are part of a larger picture that we might not have totally seen yet. We were getting little glimpses of this here and there. But I do again think that that's the board's intent, is that we brought Dr. Kutaya in to take a system-wide look at the district and help us decide what we should think about doing and what we maybe should think about stopping. In terms of the elementary piece, it's very important to me. I think we have never really had a comprehensive look at our elementary program here in town. Or if it has been done, it has been decades, because I don't remember it ever being done. And I think for me, elementary school is foundational. And what children learn to do in elementary school, they carry with them through the rest of their time here in Milford Public Schools. So to that end, the science piece is important to me. I think we can't expect our children to perform at the level that they will need to perform and the depth of understanding they'll need when they get to middle and high school with the next generation science standards if they don't have that foundation in elementary school. And I do see it as being, again, part of the big picture because I think it'll have more far-reaching effects than just the science piece. So with that, I would support this budget. So if there are no other comments, I'll call for a vote on the motion as amended to approve the superintendent's proposed 2021 budget as amended in the amount of $98,034,756 and direct administration to transmit it to the mayor. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Roll call, please.
Adam DeYoung,
Aye.
Andrew Fowler,
Nay.
Rita Hennessy,
Aye.
Warren Pulaski,
Yes, aye.
Una Petrowski,
Aye.
Betsy Ratner,
Aye.
Cynthia Twist,
Yes.
Nicole Watson,
Aye.
Cindy Wolf Boynton,
Yes.
Susan Glennon.
Yes.
9-1.
9-1, so the motion passes. And we're done. Thank you all. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second by Mr. Fowler. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, everybody. Oh, one last thing. Our committee of the whole meeting will be canceled on the 27th, so we will not have a meeting on Monday. Okay?
No meeting on Monday.
No meeting on Monday.
What was the issue with the grievance?
Oh, so there is a grievance hearing, but the date that they scheduled.